Welcome to the Guide to Wellness podcast. I'm Susannah, licensed acupuncturist. We're here to chat about health and well-being. Just a reminder, everything in this podcast is information only, not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. It's useful information to maintain a healthy life balance. Welcome, welcome. We have a very special guest here today, Bobby Ibarra. He's one of my favorite all-time body workers. We have the pleasure to share the clinic and lots of fun times together in our clinic at Great Turning Healing Center. And before we get started chatting with Bobby, we're going to frame the conversation for the conversation ahead. And what I mean by that is we're going to be talking about using awareness as a resource in our lives to improve our health and well-being. And so to begin with, what I'd like you to all to do, no matter where this finds you, listening, driving in your car, taking a run in the gym, doing some work, we want you to locate your breath and your body, whether you're standing or whether you're sitting. I want you to just take a moment and take a nice deep breath. Breathe in and breathe out fully. And just find that breath as it travels into your lungs and your diaphragm muscle expands. Feel some centering into your belly as that happens. Feel your body, whether you're standing or walking or sitting or driving, whatever it is you're doing, you're laying down. Just find your physical body and the sensations in your body. Find your breath. And know that we're going to be talking about awareness of the breath and of the body in this conversation. So how do we use that as a resource? And another frame that I'd like to give you today is to remember that when we're talking about awareness and energy, that can sound a little weird and woo-woo and unconventional. And what I mean by that is how do we as human beings use our awareness in our conversations, in our bodies, in our unconscious minds, in our self-talk, in our conversations with other people, and how do we use that to act skillfully in the world? And how do we use that to improve our health and our well-being and fundamentally our happiness in our lives? So know that this conversation overlaps into spirituality and religion. It's a part of every religion that's ever been around the planet, this concept of awareness. Whether you're in a Catholic church or whether you're out in nature, you are using awareness. If you're in a conversation with another person, you're using awareness. If you're breathing, you're using awareness. We're going to build on that. In the conventional Western medical model, you could talk about this as it'll overlap with psychoneuroimmunology or epigenetics or gene expression, meaning how does awareness translate into body function? And how do we manage our stress and our energy using awareness? So that's the context. I hope that helps a little bit. Psychoneuroimmunology is a very long word for a very cool subject that we may be talking more about. And it certainly is the medical model behind our conversation today. So with that said, I want to bring Bobby around and tell us a little bit about the work that he does. And then we're going to be talking throughout the conversation about awareness and how to use it. All right? Take it away, Bobby.
Right on. Thanks so much, Susannah. It's such a pleasure to be here. So, I am a structural integration practitioner here in Bozeman. That's also known as Rolfing. And I also use craniosacral therapy and source point therapy in my practice to just help round things out and get the job done. So really what I do is I help people feel their bodies and inhabit their bodies in a more expansive and comfortable way. You know, that might sound a little out there, but more than anything, I'm just helping people feel more so that they can move more easily, feel more comfortable, and that definitely lends itself to an emotional context, a social context, and really just every sense that we can be.
So you're saying that you help people build awareness in their bodies?
Definitely. Yeah.
Cool.
More
And that-
more than anything.
And yes, and that it translates into their lives.
Yes.
Can you tell us some more about that? How does that translate?
So the more that we're aware of the different sensations in our body, the more that we are accurately mapping out where our body is in space, the easier that it is for us to handle stress appropriately, land where we need to land, really just, I guess what I'm trying to say is that the more aware that we are in our bodies, the easier that it is to interact in the world.
Can you give us an example of how does physical awareness influence stress?
So when we're noticing our felt sense, our bodies, when we're starting to notice that we're maybe sweating a little bit or our palms are getting clammy, then we can start to have the idea like, oh, I'm getting stressed out, and take a step back and take a deep breath. For me, as a parent, I've noticed that the more that I'm able to take a step back, the more that I'm really able to use awareness as a resource, I'm way less likely to flip my lid and freak out. Because there are plenty of opportunities for that.
Right. Do you want to talk about a little bit more? I know we were talking yesterday in the clinic about flipping your lid. That might sound like something we don't want to hear more about, but actually I think we do. Do you want to talk about that now or later?
Yeah, we can touch on that for sure.
Okay.
So there is a
This is the psychoneuroimmunology part, folks.
yeah. There's a famous psychiatrist named Dan Spiegel, and
Siegel?
Dan Siegel. That's right. And he has this hand model of the brain that is just really, really fitting. So if you hold your hand up with
Okay,
your
here we go.
hand
Everybody's
open,
going to hold their hands up now.
your
With your
wrist,
palms facing you?
yeah, your palm facing you,
Okay.
your wrist leading up to the base of your palm, that represents your spine, your brain stem. And then if you fold your thumb in, that's your limbic system. And then if you fold...
So meaning the thumb is the limbic system?
Correct.
And it's now folded across the palm.
Correct.
Okay, good.
And then if you fold your four fingers over your thumb, that is that frontal cortex.
Oh, cool.
So if you start back up again
Okay, so
with your
everybody
hand
open
open,
your palms back up again.
that brain stem area, that open palm, that is that part of the reptilian brain that has everything to do with our fight, flight, freeze response.
The reactivity.
And then if you fold your thumb in again, that limbic system has to do with our emotional responses.
Okay.
Basically getting the warm and fuzzies or getting creeped out by someone.
So when you're flipping your lid,
Let's get to that in a second.
That's
so
next.
Yes. So when you fold your four fingers over that thumb, that frontal cortex has everything to do with managing those systems. It has to do with basically planning and language, but also just how we interact with other people.
So would that be when you have awareness of being in a difficult situation, then that's your frontal cortex?
Yes.
Aha.
Yeah.
And
so,
it's protecting you from flipping your lid.
correct.
Nice.
So when everything is working in an integrated way, our frontal cortex is really running the show. But as soon as we start to get overly stressed out and we let that stress get to us, we flip our lid, those fingers go up, and we either have a big emotional response or just an emotional response, or we could lose it further and go into a fight, flight, or freeze response.
Interesting.
So the more that we can stay on top of things, notice really the sensations in our bodies, what's going on around us, how our breath is, the easier that it is for us to have a response that's integrated and appropriate.
So you're saying that we can keep the prefrontal cortex online, if you will, and active and working for us with awareness if we are using sensations in the body, sensations of breathing, keeping our awareness up and in the forefront of our minds, so to speak, right? Because isn't that where the prefrontal cortex is right behind our eyebrows,
Correct.
right? So you're saying that as we build awareness, the more consistently that we do that, the more we are able to utilize balance in the prefrontal cortex and all those neurotransmitters, and less likely to rely on the limbic system and over-emote, have a bigger emotional reaction maybe than we needed to, or is that correct? Or
Yes.
to rely on the reptilian brain and freak out and flip our lid.
Exactly.
Nice.
That was something that I realized early on in my practice was people would come in and they said that they'd feel better, but more often than not, they'd say something to the effect of, I'm feeling better, but I'm also noticing that I'm handling stress much more easily.
Nice.
And I got really, really curious about that. And this is the rabbit hole that I went down.
So your work helps people do this more consistently in their lives.
Yes.
Cool.
I mean, more than anything, what this work does is that it works with our proprioceptors, which tell us where we are in space, and it helps us feel our bodies. So the more that we're inhabiting those, the more that those are woken up by this work, the easier that it is for us to stick with our sensations.
Right. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Tell us more about that. This is really interesting.
More about the proprioceptors or more about
about how your work influences people's awareness. How does it work? What is that?
Sure.
Tell us more about that.
So really big picture, the whole concept behind Rolfing was that by working with our connective tissue, our fascia, which is where all those proprioceptors live,
Can you tell us what fascia is?
Yeah, definitely. So our fascia is our connective tissue. It's what wraps every muscle, every tendon, every ligament, all our organs, all our nerves, and it has a contractile effect to it.
Right.
So it really gives everything it's the shape that it has, and it really helps carry out movement. So you can think about our muscles as the motor and the connective tissue or the fascia as the mover.
Nice.
So the whole story behind Rolfing, what Dr. Rolf was telling us, was that when we can find balanced tone through our connective tissue, the body finds alignment with gravity. So we find this nice up and down. We're able to sit more easily, stand more easily, and just move with ease and grace. So
Nice.
that's big picture. That's what the whole point of Rolfing is. And what we've found over time is that instead of needing to use a lot of force to change connective tissue, we can do it in a much more subtle and receivable way. So that's why I started studying craniosacral therapy and then eventually source point therapy. So a big piece of of me finding my awareness came from when I started studying craniosacral therapy.
Interesting.
Yeah. I just started to realize that our felt sense is just a really, really useful resource when it comes to navigating difficult situations.
What if what you're feeling is acute nausea or intense pain and you don't want to?
And
You don't want to feel that.
Yeah. Well, oftentimes those things are coming from an external stimulus. It could just be stress that's giving it to you. So slowing things down and really just noticing your breathing or noticing something other than that nausea or the pain can really help you shift that experience.
So focusing on a sound or focusing on breathing. I know that's a way that I've worked with my body with physical pain in the past is feeling my breathing in my belly.
Yeah.
And then the pain in somewhere else in my body will move to the background a little bit more easily. May not solve the problem, but does it take the pain down a notch?
Yeah.
And allow you then to skillfully choose your course of action instead of reacting, right? So once again, are we saying then that when you bring awareness to a sensation in the body, you are then using your prefrontal cortex and you're making it less likely that you're going to move into a fight or flight response. Am I hearing you right?
Yes, yes.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think that's a piece that is just really, really helpful for anyone. We get into this habit of coupling sensations with certain experiences, maybe even emotions.
Okay.
And as soon as we can decouple those things and just start to feel sensations as an objective thing instead of it needing to be associated with a certain like emotion or experience,
Okay.
we're
So
able to take
separating-
control of it. Yeah.
Right. And that's what we do in the acupuncture clinic too. So separating out the headache, let's call it, from the, oh my gosh, the headache's back. What does that mean? I must be really sick. I can't go to work today. How am I going to get through this meeting? Those are all emotional responses, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Versus just the experience of feeling pain in the head,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So you're saying we're going to separate those two.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
How might we do that on our own? So we're going to come see you, and you're going to help with realigning the body and helping with physical awareness to improve and resolve that headache pattern.
Mm-hmm. But
What can somebody do on their own at home when they have a headache or some other body pain?
Well, first off, I'd recommend drinking more water. But definitely just the more awareness that you can bring to your body as a whole, the more that you can diffuse that experience.
For
Does
example,
that make sense?
yeah. So like one of the tricks I'll do with people with headaches is to think about your left foot.
Mm-hmm.
Like really, really bring your awareness into your left or some other part of the body, right?
Yeah.
So something like that, right?
Definitely. I lean into just sensations in the feet for a lot of people.
Because it's opposite the head.
It's opposite the head. And the more that you're able to feel the ground, the easier that it is to just kind of yield into whatever situation you're in.
Nice. Okay, so identifying some other part of the body, right, that is not in pain, that is neutral, right?
Well, neutral or feels
Or
good.
okay,
you know,
or feels good, sure.
When we're talking
Yeah.
about this kind of thing, I like to think about it as we're looking for resources. We're trying to find something that is going to help us here.
Perfect.
So
Good.
the more
Love
that
it.
we're finding something that feels good, something that feels safe and comfortable, we can sit with that sensation, and the other one can still exist, but it's not at the forefront.
Nice. Could you use sound?
Definitely. Yeah, you could use sound. You can use anything external to us can be really helpful.
Okay.
So,
In my experience, sometimes using, so many of us are so visual. If I use sight, that might lock me into my mental habits more easily.
yeah,
So I personally try not to use seeing as the anchor that I'm trying to work with. I would rather use something physical in my body or a sound.
yeah. That definitely that makes a lot of sense to me.
Okay, but one could use something you're seeing. You could use any of those sense doors, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, any of the senses.
Nice.
I don't think that people are often using taste and smell, but for someone that might be a resource.
Well, I know in the clinic we use a lot of essential oils, and if I'm trying to shift my my state, I will absolutely, or I'm trying to shift a patient's state if they're stressed, I'm going to first ask them, do you like smells? Are essential oils okay? And then I'll ask them what scents they tend to like. Is it more flowery, more earthy, more minty? And then I will literally use some essential oils to help to shift their awareness.
Yeah, that sounds lovely.
Or I'll do it in me if I feel like I need that as a resource.
Yeah. when my third son was being born, we were kind of having a stressful time about it, and we used a lot of balance, which has what is that?
Is that the doTERRA blend?
It is. Yeah.
Love that one. Yep.
Roman
Good.
chamomile and blue tansy. Yeah, it's awesome.
So you used a scent to manage the stress. You weren't physically experiencing pain, but your wife was. Or right, and so she was trying to reframe that pain into a sensation and not label it as pain. I've had kids too. As soon as you label it as pain, you are off and running and you're in reactive mode. That was my experience. And as soon as I went back to the breath, or in her case, shifted her awareness into smell and probably hearing your voice, hearing, that allowed her to move her awareness back into sensation in the body instead of freaking out with this is painful. Does that sound right?
Yes.
Cool. Great example.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Maybe we should play with this a little. Is there anything else you want to add about your work? I know he promised he was going to move us through a meditation in a little bit here.
Yeah. We've touched on a lot. No, I think that we're good as far as my work goes. Yeah. So as far as the meditation goes, are you ready?
I'm always ready.
Okay. So I'm going to use a few pieces here. I use these a lot in my practice and then definitely just in my own world. And I try to share them with my friends when they're having a hard time. So we're going to orient to a few different sensations, and we're going to use resources that are just always with us.
Nice.
Okay. So I'm just going to invite everyone to notice their breath.
Hang on. Can I say something?
Oh, yeah.
If you're driving and listening to this, you might want to pull over if you feel like you might be distracted, or like not everybody falls asleep when they meditate, but just a little, just be aware of your physical surroundings before you start to meditate.
Yes. Yeah. I think that this, there are parts of this that lend themselves to being out in the world, but it might be safer to just be still. Okay. Ready?
Ready.
All right. So just take a moment to start to notice your breath. Start to notice your inhalation and your exhalation and the quality of those two. Does one of those feel easier than the other? And start to notice your feet on the ground. Start to notice your pelvis and how it meets whatever you're sitting on. And even start to notice your hands. Keeping your awareness in your hands, start to notice whatever sensation might be there. It could be tingling. It could be a pulse. It could even be just a breeze contacting your hands. Start to notice the weight of your hands. Even notice the shape of your hands, if you can begin to imagine that. And even begin to imagine the size of your hands. Let's drop back down to our feet. Start to notice just whatever sensations might be down there. Any tingling, maybe buzzing, any kind of vibration or pulse. Again, start to notice weight, shape, and even size. And start to tune into your pelvis, how it contacts whatever you're sitting on. Start to notice your head. And this is a bit of an extra credit thing here. But just start to notice the relationship between your head and your pelvis. almost like one is up and one is down. So this is a skill that I learned from craniosacral therapy and started using in parenting. Was when I could feel that relationship between my head and my pelvis. It was a lot easier to feel the front of my spine, or that midline. And you can imagine that as a golden line, or even just that space in front of your spine, between your pelvis and your head. The more that we can orient to that, the more that we can be solid for someone who needs stability. And just start to notice your breath again. Start to notice if the quality of your breath has changed at all. And I'm going to bring it right back to the podcast. Hey, Susannah.
Nice, Bobby. That was fabulous. I know I feel different, much more centered and grounded.
Great. At the risk of sounding annoying, what does it feel like to feel centered?
So this is kind of what I was talking about. Like, this is a conversation that we all need to be having more of and doing more of. And it sounds a little weird, and yet this is human experience. So how I feel different is I feel more able, I feel my brain is more focused. I can hear you better. I can see you better. I know y'all can't see us, but we can see each other right now. And I absolutely agree that I have a calmer, stronger energy for anything that I may need to be doing from now on and the rest of the day. If I need to have a conversation, if I need to show up for somebody or show up for myself, I feel more prepared to do that. And I don't experience the stress. I wasn't stressed before, but I feel calmer now. So I feel very different. And I imagine that all of you listening, if you took the time to really listen and follow along on that meditation, and please feel free to listen to this again until you can do it on your own, that this is something you have access to any day, any moment of your life. It's free. It's available to you with every breath.
Yeah, it's free and it's not disorienting.
Yeah, fabulous. So that's a really direct, easy way that we can build awareness in our bodies and reduce our stress and, frankly, show up in the world as the best version of ourselves. And for ourselves first. That old adage of put your oxygen mask on first, right? It's like if you can resource yourself well, then not only will you be more well, you will be better for everybody around you and those you love, and the impact you're making on other people will be more positive. And we get to make the world a better place.
Yeah.
Sounds kind of groovy, but guess what? It's a good thing. So now you all can see how we spend our days in the clinic. It's pretty fun.
It's a joy.
It is a joy. Bobby, if people want to work with you or want to hear more about you and what you're up to and how you are teaching people, because I know you're doing that out in the world and it's really cool to see, how do people reach you and learn more about your work?
All this information is on my website, which is just bobbyibarra.com.
Mm-hmm.
My last name is spelled Ibarra.
Cool.
Yeah.
Bobblyibarra.com. Beautiful. And it's also on the show notes, so you can pick that up there. And then, as always, if you want to reach out to us, it's Guide to Wellness Podcast. And I'm Susannah Freeman, and the clinic director here at Great Turning Healing Center. And our website is www.greatturninghealing.com. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn. So everybody, keep on breathing, keep on being aware, and go out in the world and enjoy yourself. Thank you so much for listening. Bye now.
Thanks.